just want to be your Kirblogger. All right, that was kind of a stretch on that one. Hi, everybody. Unfortunately, once again, I had to delay the topic that I was planning on doing this past weekend because this week has been extremely busy, and I wanted to dedicate the proper time to the topic I promised about, why do we storytell and etc. So in the meantime, I'm doing a shorter one, and one that's still relevant, because the reason that this week has gotten so busy for me, and why this is going to be not a super long one or anything, is because this week's solid, I have a ton of voiceover work to do, actually. In fact, I'm recording this on the Monday before it goes up, and I actually have, for the first time in ages, a live-action movie dub that I'm doing, which I haven't done that stuff in a very, very long time. That the last time I did something like that was a Turkish soap opera that Michelle Knotts hooked me up with in New Jersey, and I don't know what it's called before you go looking for that. So yeah, good luck with that. But on that same note, what I wanted to talk about in place of the planned topic, now 2 Kirblog days in a row. Sorry about that. Was I wanted to kind of talk about sort of the joys of working in audio. Both on the recording side and the editing side. I found myself this past weekend, for reasons that will remain secret, because I have been working on things for the past while now, ever since Tome has been finished. But it was the first time that I worked in mixing audio for months, I think, by this point, because I obviously haven't had any reason to with Tome being done and all the the behind the scenes material being finished and everything. But it's interesting. A lot of my close friends, well, not a lot of them, but certain close friends of mine often, they look at how many 700 things that I amass myself to do all the time, and often think, Chris, you ever considered maybe just focusing on voiceover, because you really seem to be super big into that all the time. I'm sure I probably said a little bit about that on the Pursuing Your Passion Kirblog that I did with Shady a while back, where we talked about what it is that we love to do more than anything amongst the many things that people like him and I do. I enjoy, my first love above all else is being a creator and being a storyteller. In terms of the actual mediums I like to work with, animation, writing, and voiceover. And the audio editing side of that, I think, kind of falls in line with the with the voiceover part, because really it just kind of came as a result of having to do that. It's even funny to think now, I haven't really thought about this in a while either, because I haven't had to, but just how audio editing for me has changed over the years. And yet at the same time, how it hasn't, actually, because back in the day when I was first starting to do full cartoons with voiceover, and I was just importing the individual lines into the timeline on Flash. Then eventually I got a copy of Adobe Audition, which is still the main program that I use for editing to this day. I typically use Audacity for actually recording stuff because it tends to work, and Adobe Audition, for some reason, I can never actually record anything properly in it. But yeah, editing together. Oh, except, okay, in the case of Kirblogs, because there's not much, if any at all, audio editing required for this. I just hit the fucking record button, and then, I toss the full thing into Flash, and then export it as a video. Except for in cases where it's a longer one than 20 minutes, in which case I whine and bother Amy Lookinegro for help. So much appreciation to her for always. All of the longer Kirblogs are by and large thanks to her, or whoever else happens to be around to assist me when I need it. But that aside, that's also the video editing side, and we're not here to talk about that. On the audio editing, yeah. So for like all episodes of Tome, what I would do is it would be actually some of the funnest. It would sometimes just as fun to me even as actually recording the actors. Is once all the performances were finished, all the great performances by the entire cast of the show were finished, I would get everything together, and then I would start mixing the actual audio ahead of doing any animation. It's very unorthodox. This isn't typically how it goes for animation production, but I would actually create the audio track of whatever was happening in terms of just the voiceover and the music, no sound effects, because that was when Shady would come in afterward to do that part. But I would, I would be mixing all the characters' voices and their different lines together into the scene and timing everything out as necessary. Now, on paper, that probably sounds super fucking boring, But what was exciting about it was kind of my first step into like actually kind of painting the the life of the universe a little bit with it. Also, they came out sounding way more hippy-dippy than I intended. But, whoa, painting the universe, man. No, but what I mean is aligning all the characters' voices together and, like, overlapping and, like, having the right pauses and etc. There's construction outside if you can't hear the loud buzzing and banging and saws, by the way. Sorry about that. Anyway, it was exciting to like have that first part of it would kind of pump me up for actually getting to do the animation from there on out and boarding everything out, etc. And even though the thing is like I'm not a professional when it comes to that, like I don't consider myself even remotely anything resembling a proper audio engineer, which is the reason why I'm very thankful that I have the likes of Shady, Omadon, Edwin Tiong, of course, and who works on the Did You Know voice acting videos. And Kaiser Neko when he's available to help me because he's also fantastic. I've been helping him a lot often recently with lip sync on Team 4-Star, if you guys haven't noticed. But yeah, those guys, they really know what they're doing when it comes to like proper like audio mastering and sound effects and things like that, and mixing, of course, too. So really what it is for me is it's just like aligning things and like shuffling them around in the right order and the right place of where they need to go, etc. kind of thing. But there's just something really like basically enjoyable about doing that. I feel like, if I actually knew how to work something like Pro Tools and was better at like maintaining like recording levels or whatever, then I feel like I would have a much funner time being like an engineer for like an audio, like for like an anime where like, they have to, because that's the thing too. And I realized this about getting to dub anime. I'm actually looking forward to, I have an anime project I'm working on at the end of this month, now that we've finally officially entered into March today, on the day this is going up. Time travel, anyway, dubbing anime is interesting because it's still the same kind of it's the same kind of good feeling of like doing a good performance in just acting in general, of course. Because that's always the goal, is you want it to be a good voice performance, regardless of what the medium is, whether it's anime, original animation, video games, commercials, whatever. I've been getting to audition for a lot more commercials as of late, thanks to my agency, which is great. And I'll get to that too. But in the case of anime, it's like there's something interestingly satisfying about like syncing up properly to the pre-existing animation. Like, I know that for a lot of actors, and I don't blame them for feeling this way, especially like the big prelay ones that don't need to do this kind of stuff. I can feel constricting in terms of like, oh well, it's already there. The performance is done. I don't have to fucking do anything. I'm just kind of fitting to the pre-existing material. But I don't know. Like, there's still something oddly satisfying about and also it feels easier to me. A lot of times people describe dubbing anime as like more difficult because you have to. It's like rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time kind of recording. But I mean, to some extent, yes, and especially for live action dubbing, as I'm going to find out and be reminded of later today, it's much more difficult because you really have to fit to the lip flap. With anime, it's a little bit more, you can kind of finagle. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect. It just has to more fit within the timing of everything, if anything. But yeah, it's oddly satisfying to like get it fitting in, to where it needs to be and kind of, matching to what the picture looks like and everything. And in some cases, if you're going off of the Japanese performance first as reference and then you kind of put your own spin on it, it's fun. I don't know. I've always just found it really enjoyable, and it's to me, it seems like good reason as to why, a lot of the actors who have kind of transitioned into doing prelay from anime, your Steve Blooms and Kari Wahlgrens and Troy Bakers, why in a lot of cases they will still do anime recording, every once in a while. You typically, it has to be a union project because anime is done non-union, but that's a whole other subject. Yeah, I mean, even I think Steve Bloom has always talked about how like it's different, but it's still very satisfying, and especially in his case because like that's where he came from in terms of his voiceover career. But also, by the way, if you guys have never met Steve Bloom before, he's like one of the nicest people in existence. Anyway, but yeah, it's I'm excited about doing it. I'm excited about all the stuff I'm going to get to do. This is actually kind of a relatively big voiceover month for me. I've got a whole lot of stuff to do, and hopefully, I think even Y2K, which I recorded over a year ago by this point, might be coming out relatively soon too, and that's a big deal for me in terms of me being proud of my recording as well. Speaking of Y2K, actually, kind of on that subject, around that time that I'd done that, this would have been like fall of 2014. I had gotten the chance to finally do some prelay, ensemble recording. First of all, for a prelay project, it was for a pilot, and then the second one was Y2K, which was much more consistent because one, I actually kept the role of that lead character, and it was over the course of I think like a week and a half we spent just doing the entire game front to back. And what was fortunate was that the creator Andrew, and then our director Brittany, and our actual engineer Jose, they were all three of them were like masters of audio recording and engineering as well. Somewhat. Brittany would probably disagree with me on that, but shout out Brittany. But yeah, because of that, it made it very efficient for all of us to be together. Me and at least one or two other cast members would be recording at the same time on a particular scene together, and that was such a great experience because we were just able to let ourselves go and just have fucking fun reading the copy, I'm really excited to see even just from the little bits of footage that have come out here and there. I'm really, really excited to see the final product and how that turns out. And that's a big job. Like doing an ensemble recording and editing all that together, especially for on top of that, an RPG game, which has hours and hours and hours and hours of worth of recording. It's like having a phone book, worth of a script when you look at an RPG, script often. You could fit all 7 Star Wars movies into one thing in that kind of case. I'll say this too, because I can't say enough good things about actual legit audio engineers, because again, I am not even closely resembling one of those. In getting to go to my agency, for often a few times a week now, it makes it so much more fun to have somebody to bounce off of with auditions. When I was in New York, I always enjoyed, even if it was like a long trip, I would always enjoy going into New York to audition for Pokemon, because for a time that was really all I was auditioning for in terms of like in-studio stuff. And now, thankfully, I've become a lot more connected thanks to many, many people who have been super supportive. But I would always enjoy getting direct feedback from whoever was in the studio to direct me on an audition at the time. And now, when I get auditions for stuff through my agency, I get to go into the actual studio and work with the people there, and they give me direct feedback. I'm like, hey, like, why don't you try this for this thing? And even if it's like a commercial for something, like a promo, or an actual animation thing, which I've gotten to audition for a lot more like actual cartoons now, which is a joy, and I'm super appreciative of that. It's just, again, all of it is just, it's a good feeling. And you know what? It actually goes back to something, I think I might have talked about this on one of the other voice acting Kirblogs before, some of the stuff that I learned from Richard Horvitz, where he talks about an audition is basically like an opportunity to play pretend. A lot of people make it into, oh, I gotta get this job. I gotta do my best on this, and like really, I gotta nail this job, kind of thing. It's an opportunity to just like have a good fucking time, And because in all the auditions that I've gotten, and I haven't booked anything through my agency at this time, but that's not a complaint either, because I'm happy to just come in and do it. It just feels good to do it and feel like I did a good job on my audition. And then if I happen to get something, hey, even better. That's awesome. And the fact that like I've got 3 gigs, 3 different projects that I'm working on in just this month alone, including the live action thing. And then even last week too, I had a video game recording, which was great. So I'm really appreciative, for someone who doesn't make this their full-time thing. I'm really grateful that I get to do this type of stuff in the first place. And then again, when I'm reminded of what it's like on, the opposite side of the glass, I guess you could say, when I get to be the one doing the audio editing, like I was over this past weekend for something, even that feels kind of gratifying. And maybe I realize now, not just it's exciting for, for when I get to do that stage of working on my own projects, but also I think it's because it gives me like a little bit of an appreciation, like somewhat of an appreciation for the type of work that these other people do. Because audio engineering and recording, like, it really kind of is an art form. Like, it's a much more technical, kind of job, but there is a lot of art to it, and there's a lot of talent that has to go into, doing it properly. And, of all the different, especially like engineer director combos who I've met so many and worked with so many of, like, those are super admirable as well, I gotta say. So yeah, I guess this Kirblog kind of ended up just as my my tribute to all the AV people in my life. So here's to all of you guys and gals out there who are amazing and have taught me a lot and have helped me a lot in many different ways. You're all amazing, and I think it's gonna wrap us up. I hope you all enjoyed the little bit of a shorter Kirblog topic. Hopefully, if I'm not too super continually swamped this week, I'll have the Kirblog topic that I have promised this Saturday. If not, then it'll be something else, and I'll have lied to all of you, but hopefully not. In the meantime, in the comments below, if any of you guys have ever worked in or have major interest in how audio production and recording and editing works, leave a comment about that below. And then if you have also future Kirblog topic suggestions, leave a comment about that too, or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you feel like. And also, I want to give a little plug. This is in thanks to the fine folks at Continue, who hooked me up with a great voice gig that I've been doing for I think the last month and a half, 2 months now, for a channel called Looper. They do a lot of cool videos about whatever happened to Amazing Spider-Man 3, 11 hidden details in Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and video game records that will never be broken, stuff like that. I'm totally not reading off the playlist right now because you can just click on it and go check out the videos. They're pretty cool. I've done a whole bunch of them. They give me consistent ones to do, throughout the month and everything, and they're awesome. So big ups to them. Go check it out. I'll have a link here. I'll have a link in the description as well if you feel like checking it out. And that'll do it. So I'll catch you all hopefully this weekend, and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.